The rain was falling hard that evening, cold and endless, washing the dust and smoke from the narrow metal streets of Outpost 9. People hurried under the glowing signs, hiding their faces and pulling their cloaks tight. But in the middle of the street, one figure didn't run for cover. She stood still in the downpour, her silver blue skin shining under the lights. Trembling from the cold, her name was Lyra, an alien woman from a species called the Varine. Once proud traders, now broken refugees after the war. She was trying to clean herself in the rain, her thin arms rubbing at her skin as if to scrub away the grime of months of hardship. Her clothes were torn, her hair tangled, her eyes filled with silent shame. Passers-by looked, then looked away. Some whispered, others laughed quietly. No one stopped, no one cared. This was the human sector, and most aliens here were treated like shadows, living behind the city's shining walls. At the corner of the street, a man named Jack watched. He was human, tall, wearing an old jacket and carrying a repair kit on his shoulder, a mechanic by trade. He was used to seeing broken machines, not broken people, but something about her stopped him. Maybe it was how she stood in the rain, refusing to hide, refusing to beg. He had seen soldiers beg before, thieves cry for mercy, but never someone trying to stay clean when the whole world called them dirty. He stepped closer, water splashing under his boots. "Hey," he said quietly, but his voice was lost in the rain. She turned slowly, her glowing eyes wary and scared. She expected another cruel word, another insult. Instead, he just looked at her. "You'll catch a fever like that," he said, trying to sound casual. Her lips moved, her voice soft and cracked. "I have nowhere else." Jack hesitated, his mind racing. He knew the rules. Humans and aliens weren't supposed to mix, not since the riots 2 years ago. Helping her could bring trouble, maybe even a fine. But he couldn't walk away, not tonight. Not with the way she looked. He took a slow breath, then said, "You can shower at my place." For a long moment, she didn't move. Her eyes widened slightly, unsure if he was mocking her. "No tricks," he said, raising his hands. "Just come out of the rain." The silence between them stretched until finally, she nodded weakly. Jack took off his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. It looked huge on her small frame, but she clutched it tightly. As they walked together through the dark street, whispers followed them. A human helping a Varine, unheard of. Dangerous, almost forbidden. Jack didn't care. He didn't know why he was doing it, only that something deep inside told him it was right. Behind them, thunder rolled across the skies, and somewhere in the shadows, unseen eyes watched them go. A cloaked figure spoke into a small communicator. "She's been found," the voice said coldly. "And she's with a human." The rain fell harder, washing the streets clean, but for Lyra, the storm was only just beginning. Jack pushed open the old metal door, its hinges creaking like a tired beast. His small apartment was dim but warm, light flickering from an old power lamp. Lyra stepped inside slowly, her bare feet leaving wet marks on the floor. Steam rose from her skin, and the air filled with the soft scent of rain and dust. She looked around, confused. There was no luxury here, but there was something she had not felt in a long time: safety. Jack placed his tool bag aside and handed her a towel. "You can use the shower in there," he said. Pointing to the narrow room on the left, Lyra nodded but didn't move, her hands shaking as she clutched the towel. "You trust me?" she asked in a quiet voice. Jack shrugged. "You looked like you needed help, that's all." Her eyes softened for a moment, as if those simple words carried more kindness than she had heard in years. She disappeared into the small washroom. The sound of water soon filled the silence, echoing softly through the metal walls. Jack leaned against the counter, his thoughts restless. He didn't know who she was or why anyone would be watching her, but something about her didn't feel like just another lost alien. He poured himself a cup of recycled coffee and tried to relax. Minutes later, the door opened again. Lyra stepped out, wrapped in a towel, her hair now a soft silver instead of dull gray. The grime was gone, and beneath it, her skin glowed faintly, marked with delicate patterns that shimmered like living light. Jack blinked, realizing she wasn't an ordinary Varine. Her kind were rare, once called starborns, the highest caste before the war destroyed their world. Lyra noticed his gaze and quickly looked down. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't mean to trouble you." "You're not trouble," Jack said softly, "just different." Her lips curved in a faint smile, but before she could speak again, there was a knock at the door, sharp and heavy. Both froze. Jack's instincts kicked in. No one visited him at this hour. He motioned for Lyra to stay quiet and stepped to the door. Through the peephole, he saw two figures in dark coats, their faces hidden by hoods. One of them held something that looked like a scanner. He felt his pulse rise. "Mr. Carter?" A voice called from outside. "We're looking for someone, a Vereen female. She was seen near this block." Jack didn't answer. Lyra backed away, fear in her eyes. "They're from the enforcers," she whispered. "They'll take me." "They always take us." Jack's jaw tightened. He thought for a moment, then switched off the lights. "Stay behind me," he whispered. The pounding on the door grew louder. "Open up, human," one of the voices shouted. "We know she's inside." Jack turned to Lyra, his voice calm but firm. "There's a back exit through the maintenance tunnel. We'll go there." Her breath caught. "You'd risk yourself for me?" He smiled faintly. "Guess I would." They moved fast, slipping into the narrow passage at the back. The rain outside roared louder as they emerged into the alley. Behind them, the enforcers broke down the door, metal crashing against metal. Jack and Lyra ran through the shadows, their footsteps mixing with thunder. She looked at him as they ran, her eyes glowing brighter. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Jack glanced at her. "Because no one helped us when we needed it. And I'm done watching." Lightning flashed across the sky, lighting their faces for a heartbeat. Neither of them knew it yet. But that choice, the human helping the alien, would change the fate of more than just them. The tunnel was narrow and cold, filled with dripping pipes and the hum of hidden machines. Jack moved first, holding a small flashlight that flickered every few steps. Lyra followed closely, her bare feet silent on the metal floor, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Water dripped from above, echoing like slow heartbeats. Neither spoke for a while, afraid their voices would bring the enforcers down on them. Finally, when they reached a deeper section of the tunnel, Jack stopped to catch his breath. Lyra leaned against the wall, shivering slightly under his old jacket. He looked at her and said quietly, "We can't go back. They'll be watching my place," she nodded, her face calm but her eyes heavy with something deeper. Regret, fear, and exhaustion. Jack crouched near an old maintenance door, trying to pry it open. "So," he said between breaths, "you want to tell me why those guys are hunting you?" Lyra hesitated, her fingers gripping the jacket tighter. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said, her voice trembling. "But I was born different. My people used to call it a blessing. Now they call it a curse." He turned toward her, puzzled. "Different how?" She looked away. "When the war ended, the Vereen Empire fell apart, our leaders sold us out, and humans took over most colonies. I was part of a group that carried something inside us. Energy, light, power from the stars. We were supposed to guide our kind to rebuild. But instead the enforcers hunt us," Jack frowned. "So you're like some kind of energy carrier?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. And they want to use that energy, not for peace, but for control." The words hit him hard. He had heard stories about Vereen experiments, rumors that they could turn living beings into power sources for ships and weapons. He had never believed it until now. "Those men outside your door," she continued, "they're not just guards. They work for a company that sells our kind to labs." Jack's hands clenched. "That's slavery." Lyra gave a faint, sad smile. "It's worse than slavery, human. They drain our life until nothing is left." Jack stood silently for a moment, the truth sinking in. Then he said firmly, "Not while I'm breathing." He pushed open the maintenance door, revealing a hidden chamber filled with old cargo crates and dim emergency lights. "This used to be part of the old freight tunnels," he said. "No scanners work down here. We'll rest for a bit." Lyra sank onto one of the crates, her shoulders heavy for the first time. She looked at Jack with trust, not fear. "Why help me?" she asked again, softer this time. Jack shrugged. "Because someone has to." He handed her a small flask of water, and she drank slowly, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Then the air changed. A low humming sound filled the tunnel. Faint but growing, Jack's head snapped up. "Drones," he whispered. Lyra's body tensed. "They found us." He grabbed his toolkit and pulled out a small EMP grenade, one he had built from scrap. "Stay low," he said, tossing it into the tunnel. A burst of blue light filled the air, and the hum stopped instantly. When silence returned, Lyra looked at him with surprise. "You're not just a mechanic, are you?" she asked. Jack gave a small grin. "Let's just say I fix more than machines." For the first time, she laughed softly, a sound gentle and full of life. But somewhere above them, deep in the network of streets and towers. A signal had already been sent. The enforcers now knew that the human who helped the Starborn was alive, armed and running, and the hunt had only begun. The tunnels stretched far below the city, darker and colder with every step. Jack's small flashlight threw weak beams over broken pipes and hanging wires. Behind him, Lyra walked quietly, her glowing eyes the only color in the shadows. The air was heavy with rust and the smell of old engines. They had been walking for hours, yet every sound felt like footsteps following them. Jack stopped near a rusted panel and pressed his ear to the metal. He could hear faint humming beyond it, the same hum as the drones they'd destroyed. "They're tracking the power lines," he muttered. "They know we're down here." Lyra's voice was soft. "Then we must go deeper, where light dies and signals fade." Her tone was calm, but he could sense something else, like she knew these tunnels better than she should. As they moved deeper, the walls began to change. Old graffiti faded into strange symbols, glowing faintly in the dark. Jack ran his fingers across one and felt a pulse, a faint vibration under his skin. "What is this?" he asked. Lyra hesitated before answering. "My people built these places long ago before humans came. The tunnels were not for escape. They were for energy flow." Jack frowned. "Energy flow?" She nodded. "The planet's core hums with power. My ancestors learned to channel it. This city stands on top of our forgotten systems." Her eyes glowed brighter as she touched the wall, the symbols responding to her touch. The whole tunnel flickered with blue light. Ancient circuits awakening. Jack stepped back, amazed. "You're turning it on." Lyra shook her head. "No, it's remembering me." The hum grew louder, then softened in the distance. Something massive shifted, like machinery long asleep was breathing again. Jack looked around uneasy. "We shouldn't stay here if that thing wakes. It might bring them straight to us," but Lyra looked lost in thought. "There's a place ahead," she said. "A chamber my mother once spoke of. A sanctuary for the Starborn." When they reached it, Jack stopped short. The chamber was vast, round, and filled with columns of crystal and light. In the center stood an ancient machine humming gently, covered in alien script. Lyra approached slowly, tears forming in her eyes. "This is the heart node," she whispered. "It keeps the balance of energy below the city." Jack stepped closer, scanning the old tech. "It's beautiful," he said, "but dangerous if the enforcers find it." Lyra nodded. "They have been searching for this for years. If they capture me, they'll use me to unlock it." Her voice broke slightly. "That's why I ran." Jack placed a hand on her shoulder, firm and kind. "Then we make sure they never get near it." Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed through the air. Jack turned fast. His wrist scanner was flashing red. "They're close," he said. "Too close." Lyra's eyes widened. "They can't enter here unless—" She stopped mid-sentence, realization hitting her. "They've found another Starborn," she whispered. Jack's chest tightened. "Another one like you?" She nodded slowly. "If they have her, they'll use her to find me. And this place." The humming walls grew louder as if the machine itself sensed the danger. Jack grabbed his pack and said, "Then we move now, before this whole place lights up like a beacon." But as they turned to leave, a faint blue light appeared at the tunnel's entrance, and a female voice echoed through the chamber, soft yet sharp. "Lyra, you shouldn't have come back." Lyra froze, eyes wide with shock. The figure in the doorway stepped into view. Another Vereen. Her markings brighter, her presence commanding. Jack could see the resemblance immediately. "Who is she?" he whispered. Lyra's lips trembled as she answered, "My sister." Lyra stood frozen as the new figure stepped from the tunnel's blue haze. Her sister's name slipped from her lips in a whisper. Seren. The other Vereen's eyes glowed a fierce silver, brighter than Lyra's gentle blue. Jack could feel the air change, the hum of the heart node pulsing faster, reacting to the sister's presence. It was like the ancient machine could sense their bloodline. Seren's voice was calm but cold. "You shouldn't have come back here, Lyra. They followed you." Lyra shook her head quickly. "No, I covered my tracks. We destroyed their drones." Seren stepped closer, her tall frame casting long shadows across the crystal floor. "You think it's that simple," she said. "They don't need machines to find you anymore. They've linked to the node itself." Jack's eyes darted to the glowing walls. "So they can track her through this thing?" he asked. Serene's gaze flicked to him, sharp and suspicious. You brought a human here? Her tone carried both surprise and anger. He saved me, Lyra said softly. When no one else would. Seren's expression softened for just a second, then hardened again. Humans caused the fall of our people. Lyra, and you trust one? Jack raised a hand slowly. I didn't come here to hurt anyone. I just couldn't let her die in the rain. Something in his voice, plain, honest human, made Seren pause. But before she could reply, the chamber trembled. The ground shook as if something enormous was moving above them. The enforcers, Seren said, her tone urgent now. They've found the upper shaft. Blue sparks burst from one of the tunnels. Lyra grabbed Jack's arm. We have to seal this place. Seren turned to the heart node, her fingers moving across its glowing symbols. I can lock the doors, but it will take both of us, she said. The node responds only to two starborn together. Lyra nodded, stepping beside her sister. Their hands touched the crystal surface at once, and the entire chamber blazed with light. Jack shielded his eyes as the room filled with swirling energy. The sisters began to chant softly in their language, their voices blending like music and thunder. The walls shimmered and the hum became a low roar. From somewhere above, he could hear the muffled sound of explosions, doors breaking, boots striking metal. The enforcers were coming. When the light faded, the main tunnel behind them had sealed shut with a solid wall of crystal. But Lyra and Seren were weak, their energy drained. Jack rushed to support Lyra. You okay? She nodded faintly, her skin pale but glowing softly. Seren leaned against a pillar, breathing hard. It's only a matter of time. They'll dig through. Jack looked around, scanning the ancient machinery. There's another exit, right? Seren hesitated. There is one path, but it's forbidden. It leads to the surface through the reactor vanes. Humans built their power stations on top of it. Jack grinned slightly. Guess we're going to break some rules then. Seren stared at him. Surprised by his fearlessness, Lyra smiled weakly. That's what humans do. Before they could move, a voice echoed through the sealed tunnel, distorted but clear. Starborn detected, it said in a mechanical tone. Prepare for extraction. The crystal wall began to crack, thin lines of light spreading across it like veins of fire. Seren grabbed her sister's hand. Go. I'll hold them off. Lyra shook her head, tears in her eyes. No. Not again. Jack stepped forward, firm. We all go. Or none of us go. He reached for his tool belt and pulled out a small device, an old EMP charge rebuilt for stronger blast. If they want through, he said, pressing the trigger. They'll get a surprise first. The device beeped slowly. Its light pulsing red, Seren's eyes widened. Human? That will collapse the tunnel. Jack smiled. Exactly. The last thing they heard before the explosion was the enforcers shouting orders. Then came the flash of light, the roar of power, and the world turned to dust and thunder. The blast shook the underground like an earthquake. Flames and dust roared through the tunnels, swallowing sound and air alike. Jack felt the ground give way beneath him, his hand reaching blindly for Lyra. Their fingers met for a heartbeat before everything went black. When he opened his eyes, he was lying in shallow water, warm and glowing faintly blue. The air smelled like ozone and crystal dust. Lyra was beside him, coughing softly, her silver hair wet and shining. Seren lay a few meters away, barely conscious but alive. Above them, the tunnel had collapsed, leaving only a narrow path filled with flowing light. Jack sat up slowly, wincing at the ache in his shoulder. Everyone alive? He asked. Lyra nodded weakly. Yes, somehow. Seren pushed herself up with effort, her tone dry. Humans and their explosions. Jack managed a small grin. Hey, it worked, didn't it? They were deep now. Deeper than any human or Vereen had gone in years. The walls glowed with soft light, alive with moving patterns that looked almost like veins. What is this place? Jack asked, his voice echoing softly. Lyra looked around, awe and fear mixing in her eyes. This is below the heart node, she said. The reactor vanes, pure energy from the planet's core, flows here. As they walked, the water grew brighter. Every step hummed underfoot, sending ripples of light across the walls. Seren stopped suddenly, her gaze fixed ahead. There, she whispered, pointing to a structure rising from the glowing stream. It was a massive crystalline spire, floating inches above the ground, humming with power. Ancient markings covered its surface, the same symbols that had reacted to Lyra's touch before. Jack approached carefully, the hair on his arms standing up from the static charge. This thing. It's alive, he murmured. Lara stepped closer, her expression both calm and emotional. It's called the core seed, she said. The source of life for all starborn energy, Seren added quietly. And the reason the enforcers hunt us, we're connected to it. Jack frowned. Connected how? Lyra placed her hand gently on the spire, and it flared with light. Her body glowed in response, energy flowing through her like water through glass. I'm part of it, she said softly. When I was born, a piece of its power marked me. They believe I can control it, but I never learned how. Jack stepped closer. Maybe it's not about control, maybe it's about connection. The spire pulsed once, and a low melodic voice echoed in the air. It wasn't human or alien. It was the machine itself speaking through vibration. Starborn blood returns. Balance can be restored. Lyra's eyes widened. It recognizes us. Seren looked uneasy. If it wakes completely, it could power the entire city or destroy it. Before Jack could respond, a deep rumble shook the ground. A stream of molten light burst through a nearby wall, forming a bright fissure. Out of it stepped figures, metallic, tall, faceless. The enforcer drones had followed even here. Jack cursed under his breath. They never give up. Seren raised her hand, summoning a flicker of blue light, but her strength faltered. There are too many, she whispered. Lyra turned toward the core seed, her face calm. If this is where it began, she said, then maybe it's where it ends. She pressed both palms to the crystal. Her eyes closing, light exploded around her. Brighter than fire, purer than the sun. The drones froze, their metal frames vibrating violently before collapsing into the glowing stream. Jack shielded his face, shouting, Lyra, stop, you'll burn yourself out. But she didn't move, her voice echoing softly within the light. Better to give life than run from it. Seren grabbed Jack's arm, her eyes wide with tears. She's merging with it. The light began to fade. When it settled, Lyra was gone. Only the core seed remained, its glow steadier, calmer, almost peaceful. Jack dropped to his knees. Staring at the empty space where she had stood, Seren whispered, her voice trembling. She became one with the source. The hum of the core slowed to a gentle rhythm, and from somewhere deep within, a faint echo answered back, protect what remains. Silence filled the chamber after the blast of light. Only the soft hum of the core seed remained, glowing with a calm blue rhythm. Jack knelt beside the glowing water, staring at the place where Lyra had stood. It felt impossible to believe she was gone. Moments ago she was real, shivering, breathing, laughing, and now she was part of the machine that had slept for centuries. Seren stood a few steps away, her silver eyes dim and wet. She's one with the source now, she whispered. Our people will sing her name in the currents of time. Jack looked up at her, his voice rough. She shouldn't have had to do it alone. Seren placed a trembling hand on the crystal wall. She chose it, human. She always carried that light. And now the planet carries it with her. The tunnel shook again, bringing dust down from the ceiling. Jack forced himself to his feet. We can't stay? This place is falling apart, Seren nodded, wiping her face quickly. There's an emergency passage through the upper flow. They started moving fast, the floor pulsing under them as if the core itself was breathing again. Every hum of the chamber echoed Lyra's presence, soft, guiding, alive. As they reached a narrow corridor, blue symbols lit the path ahead. Jack frowned. She's showing us the way. Seren glanced back at the light, a faint smile appearing. Her spirit moves through the energy. She's still helping us. The walls trembled harder, cracks glowing with hot light. Steam hissed from the ceiling pipes. Turning the air thick and heavy, Jack led the way up a spiral ramp that twisted toward a faint opening. The glow behind them brightened, the core seed's energy spreading outward through the tunnels. Seren stopped halfway and looked back. She didn't just merge, Jack. She woke it up, she restored balance. He turned, breathing hard. What do you mean? Seren pointed to the walls where new vines of light spread like living roots. The planet is healing. The power that was stolen from it is returning, and it's because of her. Before Jack could answer, a metallic echo filled the passage. A lone enforcer drone, half damaged from the explosion, was crawling through the rubble toward them. Its single red eye flickered, scanning the air. Seren raised her hand to strike, but the drone spoke in a distorted voice. Directive, canceled, energy overload detected. Then its body froze and a faint blue spark flickered in its chest. The red light in its eye turned blue. Jack stared in disbelief. It's changed. Seren stepped closer, whispering. Her light reached even this machine. The drone lowered its head slightly, as if bowing, and then shut down completely. Jack felt a strange calm settle over him. She's everywhere now, Seren nodded. Yes, and she'll protect what she touched. They pushed onward until they reached the exit, a round hatch covered in moss and rust. When Jack forced it open, a rush of clean, cold air flooded in. They stepped out into the night, back to the surface, under the endless rain, but the rain looked different now, glowing faintly with light reflected from the clouds. The whole sky shimmered with soft blue arcs, like veins of energy stretching across the horizon. Seren stood in awe, her voice breaking. It's her. The energy is spreading through the atmosphere. Jack looked up, feeling the rain on his face. She gave the world a second chance, he said quietly, and I won't let anyone destroy it again. In the distance, alarms echoed from the human sector. The enforcer network was collapsing, machines shutting down, power grids rebooting. Something new was beginning. Jack turned to Seren, determination burning in his eyes. Come on, he said, if we want to honor her, we start with the city. Seren looked at him, surprised. You'd fight for us. Jack smiled faintly. She did, and I'm not letting her light fade. They walked into the rain together, the storm reflecting the glow of Lyra's sacrifice. Far behind them, deep under the city, the core seed pulsed gently, alive, peaceful and eternal, and if one listened closely, beneath the thunder and the hum of machines, a soft voice seemed to whisper, Keep them safe, Jack. The storm rolled across the skyline as Jack and Seren reached the human district. Neon signs flickered, power grids stuttered, and drones fell from the air like dying insects. The city that once buzzed with metallic order now trembled in confusion. Lyra's light had changed everything. Jack pulled his jacket tighter against the rain. People filled the streets shouting, staring at the glowing clouds above. Blue lightning arced through the sky, not destroying, but healing. Pipes flowed clean water again, and the choking smog had begun to thin. The air smelled like rain, not rust. Seren walked beside him, her hood low, her markings hidden. Humans were panicking, unaware of what truly happened below. Your world is waking up, she said softly. But they'll blame me. They'll blame her. Jack shook his head. Not if I tell them the truth. They passed a group of soldiers near the checkpoint. One pointed a rifle, shouting, Halt! Identify yourselves. Jack raised his hands. Name's Jack Carter, Maintenance Division. I've got vital information. The soldier's visor flickered from static interference. The new energy waves were disrupting all systems. Inside the command post, the tension was thick. Screens blinked with warnings. Unregistered power source detected. Officers argued, voices sharp and fearful. Jack stepped forward, ignoring their threats. You don't understand, he said firmly. The power isn't an attack, it's life returning to the planet. They stared at him like he was mad. Seren stepped beside him, pulling back her hood, revealing the faint glow under her skin. Gasps filled the room, weapons raised instantly. An alien, someone hissed, but before they could fire, the lights flickered again, this time turning a calm blue. Every monitor displayed the same image, a pattern of light pulsing like a heartbeat. Lyra's voice echoed softly through the speakers. Balance restored. Protect each other. The room went silent. Jack's throat tightened. He knew that voice anywhere, Seren whispered, tears in her eyes. She's still guiding us. An older officer lowered his weapon slowly. What is that? He asked. Jack looked at him steadily. That's the reason any of us are still alive. Outside, the crowd began to calm. The rain glowed gently, and the blue light spread from building to building. Machines that once obeyed only code now paused. They seemed to listen to something unseen. People looked up at the sky, not with fear, but with awe. News broadcasts struggled to explain it. Unidentified energy wave stabilizing infrastructure, one reporter said, voice trembling. Experts suggest the phenomenon may be beneficial. The planet itself seemed to sigh in relief.
Seren turned to Jack. She changed your world.
And ours, Jack nodded. Then it's our job to keep it that way. He stepped onto the platform outside, facing the cameras that now swarmed the street. He didn't speak like a soldier or a leader. He spoke like a human who had seen something worth believing in. There was a woman, he said, voice steady, who carried light in her heart when the world turned dark. She wasn't human, but she was more human than most of us will ever be. And she saved us all. The crowd listened in silence. Rain washed over their faces, glowing softly as if touched by her spirit. Seren stood behind him, proud and quiet. For the first time, humans and Vereen shared the same light. No borders, no fear, just the same rain. The same hope. Above them, the clouds opened. A beam of pure blue light shot upward into the heavens, and for a moment, it shaped itself into a familiar figure. A woman of light smiling down. Jack closed his eyes, whispering, "Rest easy, Lyra. We'll keep your promise." The storm faded into gentle rain, and under its calm rhythm, a new dawn began. The morning after the storm, the city looked new. Smoke had cleared. The sky shone pale blue for the first time in years. People whispered of miracles, of machines that healed themselves, of water that no longer burned the tongue. But peace never lasts long when power is involved. Jack and Seren were summoned to the central hall, the seat of the Human Alliance Council. The building towered above the city, shining silver against the glowing clouds. Inside, soldiers lined the corridors, their eyes wary, their weapons ready. Seren kept her hood low, her glowing markings hidden. Jack walked beside her, jaw tight, knowing they were not guests. They were suspects. At the far end of the chamber, 10 council members sat in a half-circle. Screens floated above them, showing data streams of blue energy readings across the planet. "Mr. Carter," the chief counselor began, his tone cold. "You claim responsibility for this energy awakening." Jack stood firm. "Not me," he said. "A woman named Lyra, an alien, did it to save all of us." Murmurs filled the room. The counselor's eyes narrowed. "And where is this Lyra now?" Jack's voice softened. "She's gone. She became part of the source beneath the city." The chamber went silent. Then another counselor leaned forward. "So this alien is now fused with the planet's power network?" "Yes," Jack answered. "And she's stabilizing it." The man smirked. "Then she can be controlled." Seren's eyes flashed. "You can't control her, she's not a weapon," gasps followed. Heads turned. One guard stepped forward, but the counselor raised his hand to stop him. "Another Vereen," he said slowly. "And you brought her into the capital." "Jack Carter, do you know what that means?" Jack didn't flinch. "Yeah, it means you owe your lives to her sister." Seren stepped beside him, her voice calm but sharp. "You fear what you don't understand." "Humans," she said. "But her light healed your cities. It didn't destroy them." The counselor tapped the table. "Maybe for now, but what happens when this energy spreads beyond control? When machines start obeying her will instead of ours?" Jack replied, "Maybe that's what scares you, that she gave freedom, not orders." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the chief counselor leaned back, eyes cold as stone. "Mr. Carter, we're placing both you and this alien under observation until we can ensure this energy is safe." Jack's fists clenched. "You mean prison?" The man's expression didn't change. "For the safety of all, before soldiers could move." The lights flickered, every screen in the room turned blue. A soft hum filled the air, the same tone Jack had heard deep below the city. Lyra's voice echoed again, gentle but clear. "Do not chain what brings you life. Light shared is never lost." The counselors froze, eyes wide in disbelief. Seren smiled faintly. "She's listening." Jack looked up at the glowing lights, feeling warmth spread through the room. "See?" he said softly. "She's not gone, she's guiding us." The power surge faded, but the air was different now, calmer, alive. One of the younger counselors lowered her head, whispering, "Maybe we've been wrong." But the chief counselor slammed his hand down. "Enough! This is not divine power, it's a threat, and we will contain it." Guards moved forward again, but this time the doors burst open. Hundreds of citizens stood outside, human and alien together, their faces lit by blue light. They had followed the energy's call, drawn to the hall by something greater than fear. The people chanted softly, "Light for all, light for all." Jack turned to the council, his voice steady and strong. "You can't fight the dawn," he said. "You can try to cage it, but it'll rise anyway." Seren placed a hand on his shoulder, whispering she'd be proud of you. Above them, the storm clouds began to part once more, and the blue glow spread outward, rising like morning sunlight across the towers. The council's age of control was ending, and a new era, born from one alien woman's kindness, was just beginning. The city no longer slept. Blue light pulsed through every tower, every pipe, every forgotten machine. What once was cold metal now glowed with warmth. People filled the streets, not with fear this time, but with wonder. Children touched the shining puddles, laughing as the water rippled with soft light. Jack stood on the high balcony of the central hall, the wind brushing against his jacket below him. Thousands of humans and Vereen gathered together, their faces turned upward for the first time in memory. There were no guards between them. No orders, no borders, only rain, light, and hope. Serene stood beside him, her silver eyes reflecting the glowing sky. She did it, she whispered. She brought balance not just to the planet, but to hearts. Jack nodded slowly. She taught us what it means to be human, even when she wasn't one. He looked toward the horizon, where the clouds formed faint shapes of shifting light. Sometimes, if he looked long enough, he thought he saw her face there, smiling. The council chamber behind them was quiet now. Some members had fled, others remained, humbled by what they'd seen. The youngest counselor stepped forward, holding a small tablet. "The energy is spreading globally," she said softly. "Power grids are stable, crops are regrowing. Even the wastelands are turning green." Jack smiled faintly. "Then she really did fix what we broke." Seren turned to him, her voice calm but certain. "What will you do now, human?" He looked down at the crowd. "Keep her promise," he said. "No more walls. No more hiding. Humans and Vereen build together now." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Then I will stay and help you." He grinned. "Good. I could use someone who glows in the dark." She laughed softly, a sound that made the wind feel lighter. Suddenly the air shimmered above the plaza. A column of blue light descended slowly, and from within it a voice echoed, not a warning, not a command, but a whisper full of peace. "You kept your word, Jack." Everyone froze, heads lifting toward the sky. Lyra's voice flowed through the air like music. "I am not gone. I am the light that keeps your world alive. Protect each other and never forget kindness." Tears filled Serene's eyes, and even the toughest soldiers bowed their heads. Jack whispered under his breath, "I won't forget. I promise." The light spread across the plaza, forming symbols in the air, her people's language glowing like stars. Then it faded gently, leaving the sky calm and endless that night. The humans and Vereen worked side by side. They repaired homes, shared food, told stories under the glowing rain. And from the central hall, Jack watched them with quiet pride. He saw children with mixed markings, half Vereen, half human, playing in the streets. He saw laughter where fear once ruled months past, and peace took root like a living thing. Machines once built for war now built gardens. The old enforcer towers were turned into light beacons, powered by Lyra's energy. Every year on that same night, when the first rain of the season fell, the people gathered standing under the sky, waiting, and always the clouds would glow softly. A shimmer would pass through the air, and they would hear it just for a moment, the gentle hum of her voice. "The light you share is the home you build." Jack stood among them, older now, still smiling. He looked at the horizon where the rain met the sea of light and whispered, "You gave us more than peace, Lyra. You gave us each other." The wind carried his words into the glowing night, and somewhere deep beneath the city, the core pulsed once more, steady, strong, alive. The world had learned to live again.